Welcome to Idea to Investment, the podcast where we dig into the exciting world of entrepreneurship and investment. We tell the stories of the tech creators doing innovative work and the investors who back them up. Along the way, unveiling the fascinating journey from the birth of an idea to scoring crucial investment. We'll highlight the voices of entrepreneurs, showcasing their grit and creativity, all while gaining insight from the investors who believed in those dreams. Get ready to be inspired, stay informed, and stay tuned as we explore the awesome collision of ideas and investments.
My name is Lynn Davis, and I am the president of Alegria 3 Inc., which is an impact investment company that I founded almost a decade ago.
Well, Lynn, it's a pleasure to be here. This is a unique edition of Idea to Investment as well, in that we are exclusively talking to an investor. We're focusing on the investment side. Well, I shouldn't say that either, because we will talk about the founding portion of it, but from an investment perspective. So maybe let's start, Lynn, with kind of your overall philosophy. What is today your investment philosophy?
And actually, it's been the philosophy from the get-go. I was a member of the Southwestern Ontario Angel Group, and even from my first meeting, I found that I was looking for companies that had a social or an environmental impetus built into the business DNA. And then that side piece of really interested in female founders who often get less attention, let's say, than male founders.
So I think there's this, and you tell me if it's a misconception, that most investors are solely concerned with the bottom line. How do you reconcile, and is that true? And how do you reconcile that with, investing with a social conscience?
So I would say that there is a significant number on the hockey stick. They want to see that 10-time return on their investment. But there are also there's also a contingent of us that look to how can we make things better on the planet, whether that's from an environmental or a social standpoint. And we kind of start to navigate to each other because we understand that we have that common purpose in terms of what we're looking for. But I would say that there is still a large majority for whom what they can make on an investment is going to be the most important piece for them.
How's that philosophy evolved at all? You said that was the philosophy from the very beginning, or a decade ago. Has it changed? Has it evolved? Has it grown?
So I don't think it's changed. It probably has evolved in terms of. So one of the first lessons that I learned as an investor was that it's not just one investment. There's follow-on rounds as a company grows and learns and has to adjust based on what's happening in the market. And so if I had to kind of evolve over time, it was to understand that no, this isn't a one-shot deal. I'm going to be in this company's sightline for a significant amount of time as they try and figure out who they are and to become self-sufficient on the financial front.
So more like a partnership then?
Well, there's a little bit of that. And obviously one of the really interesting things about the investment side is you can be as involved as you choose to be. So I've opted to kind of be in the background 90% of the time because I want to give the founder the opportunity to really dig in and figure out how they're going to make this work. But if there's a moment where there's something in my background that would be beneficial in terms of a business strategy or just idea sharing, then happy to step in, lean in, do what needs to be done there.
I'm sure that it also depends, you say you can be as involved as you want to be. I'm sure it's also dependent on how involved the founder wants you to be as well. So how do you balance that? And does that come from, do you have a very specific conversation about that at the beginning about how involved you are going to be?
I don't know that it's a specific conversation. I would say it's more a sense of who the founder is as an individual, because the other piece that plays into this really significantly for me is the character of the founder. So there's a course that's taught at Ivy in the business school called Transformational Leadership, and it's all around leader character. And if you can imagine a wheel, we have all these characteristics as human beings. But if one is more heavily weighted than another, you can get an imbalance. So if you've got a founder who is really, really, really driven, but doesn't have empathy, compassion, so or even just the opportunity that if they don't balance it, they can burn out really quick, then they're maybe not going to get to the end goal. So in as much as I'm looking for the social and the environmental, I'm also looking at the founder to say, who are you as a human being, and how will I interact with you based on what I'm like? So there's almost that sense of whether or not they're going to be somebody I can work with really quickly in conversations. So it works out okay.
Does that excite you when you do find those founders that
Oh yeah.
that you know are going to be looking for some mentorship?
Yeah, it's because it's always fascinating because what I learn, and in as much as I might be able to impart a nugget, there's also the opportunity what I get back out of it. And so then what, future investment or conversation with someone that I'm not even invested in, then well, it's like, well, what about this? So it becomes this really full circle opportunity.
So in the course of doing this podcast, I've had the opportunity to hear a lot of pitches, and I know, in fact, you have in the past served as a moderator, adjudicator for the Tech Alliance Limitless Awards. Most recently, they did a pitch contest, a live pitch contest that you were a judge for. That was fascinating to me to see, back-to-back pitches and, I don't know, compare them was really a fascinating project for me. For you, what are you looking for? What makes a good pitch?
So I would say, and there were some exceptional pitches at the Limitless Awards. I am still gobsmacked at how much information these individuals could get into such a finite time period. And that, I think, really is what it's about, because you very quickly need to understand what's the problem they're trying to solve, how do they anticipate solving it, and where is the revenue stream that's going to make this a viable business. And if you can pull that all together in 90 seconds, whatever the time frame is that you're given, then you're well on your way to capturing somebody's attention and potentially, having a check writing opportunity.
Yeah, capturing the attention, I think, is key, and to some degree, capturing their heart, I think, is a big one too, right?
Totally. There's got to be that thing that resonates in terms of why is this important, and we certainly had those at the Limitless Awards, for sure.
Not that we saw any of these at the Limitless Awards, but what about pitfalls? Are there things that you see that you would consider cringeworthy within a pitch that you think sometimes should not appear in a pitch?
Well, so I think that would all depend on where the founder is in his journey or her journey. Because by the time pitches were coming to Slow Angels, they had been through countless iterations in order to make it something that was quick and comprehensive. If you've got a really, really fledgling founder, you might have something that you're going, nope, that A doesn't work, or B doesn't resonate, whatever the situation might be. So I think it really depends on where the founders are to know, or to discover or see something where it's like, no, that's just not going to work.
Yeah, and I think you're talking timing. We talk a lot about timing, when it's right to go to look for outside investment. And again, does that depend on the individual funder, or is there kind of like a golden rule for when it's a good time for a startup to seek outside investment from your perspective?
Well, I would say that it depends on if you're involved with an organization that is looking at those kinds of pitches specifically. Because with the groups that I've been involved in, I'm now doing a little bit of work with RHA Ventures, and they've got kind of a pre-seed opportunity with a fund that they have, whereas with the angel investment groups, you're looking more, you're getting into the later stage. So it just really depends on where they are on that journey to be able to, to answer that.
So, Lynn, you mentioned off the top that your goal is to seek out those opportunities to invest in things with a social conscience, environmental, and female founders as well. So, give me an idea of the challenges that female founders face today.
How much time do you have?
We have all the time in the world, Lynn.
Yeah, so it is remarkable that as far as I remember, we're in 2024, and this is still a moment where the majority of female founders are speaking to male funders. So male angel investors, it doesn't matter which iteration, it's still a predominantly male sphere. And so what I have seen firsthand, when a female founder presents, they are asked different questions than a male founder would be asked. So a male founder is going to be asked, okay, so what if something goes wrong? What's your, how are you gonna deal with that? A female founder would be asked just a totally different question that leads to, so we ultimately think you're going to fail at this. And so it's really frustrating to watch that because it's an unconscious bias, I would say 90% of the time. But there's just a sense that men are going to be able to do something in a better, more definitive way. And yet I'm watching female founders do remarkable things in their specific industries. And gender has nothing to do with it. Like they're, if the idea is sound, then they deserve the same time and attention. And it doesn't always happen that way.
Man, that just must be so frustrating for someone who's seeking investment because you kind of have to play the game, right? Like you're looking for an opportunity to grow your business, and you don't want to kick it in the pants by pushing back against what you perceive as a gender bias.
But at the same time, it's also really important, and something that I don't think that the founders will consider, because they just want the investment. They want to be able to move forward. But the who, in terms of the funder side, is equally important. You need to be working with people who do get your idea, who are going to support you. So if there isn't a fit, then you might want to second guess the decision to go ahead and do it. And I've watched founders claw back. So they've taken investment and then they paid it back because they realize this is not aligning for whatever reason, and the founders simply could not work with the investors.
But again, that is such a hard thing to do, to say no to funding, to money, simply because they asked a question that tipped you off to how this person might be to interact with in the future. To be able to say no to them, man, that takes a lot of guts.
It does. And you don't want it to be that career limiting move either. But I think it is important to, for any founder to really consider, is this the right decision for the company, for them as an individual, because it's their idea and they're the ones who want to see it succeed. But yeah, it's a personality thing, it's a control thing, it's all of that. Like, I know there are people who have pitched, who have been given the opportunity and not taken it because losing control of a portion or a significant amount of the company doesn't make sense in that moment. So it's I appreciate the fact that it's a two-way street. It's not just about the founder. It's not just about the funder. It does, in a perfect world, it's got to be a good match for both.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Do you feel like that puts you in a unique position as, do you have founders who come to you and go, what a breath of fresh air to be dealing with a female as a potential investor?
There have been moments that's exactly the response. It's like, oh my gosh, somebody who gets it, and I really appreciate that it's, that it's not about how much money can I make. It's about what's the difference in whatever field we're talking about. And I just think women bring a different energy to this area anyway, just based on who we are. There's maybe more nurturing, not with all of us, but I would say that part of what I bring to it is how can I help you? What is what is it that you need in this moment? And if it's not my skill set, then who can I direct you to that's going to give you what you need in this moment in order to be able to move forward? So it's yeah, it's really cool when it works, and then but it doesn't always. And then there's also the moment that this is really, really risky investment. These companies do not all survive. And so as an investor, I have to look at it and go, how much can I afford to lose? Because I might lose it all.
Yeah, let's talk about that because you're right. I mean, they don't all succeed. Founders know that. But as an investor, how do you manage your losses, and really what do you consider to be a loss?
So when people disappear off the face of the planet, which had happened on 2 occasions,
What?
yeah, yeah, can't find them, can't locate them. They have, yeah, the shutters are on the windows, and there's no response to emails. It's a little disheartening that there can't even be a conversation to say, just so you know, here are all the reasons why this didn't work. And to be able to officially have closure, so that when I'm talking to my accountant, it's like, we're writing that one off.
Yeah, that would certainly be a loss. Someone actually disappearing. That's got to be a rarity, though, isn't it?
Well, I don't know what the overall average would be. At this point, I think I'm 12 or 15 investments in, and I've only had 2 who have vanished. So we'll take that as okay, maybe not too bad, but again, it goes back to, first of all, don't invest more than you can afford to lose. Second of all, this was really, really early on in my investment journey. So there were things that I really didn't understand in terms of what the trajectory could be. So it's yeah, there's lots of learnings, always learnings in terms of what this could be, or how it may end. I've also had successful exit. So you take those and you go, well, that kind of paid for that. So we're good.
Yeah, exactly. As long as everything balances out, the universe is fine.
Yeah.
So what is this is a real time of disruption right now. I mean, AI is leading a lot of it, but it feels like we're in a time of a lot of unknown. And anybody who is in the financial world knows that the unknown is never a good thing. Does it make your world more difficult right now? What is the investing world? What kind of what's the mood, I guess?
That's a really good question, and I would say the mood is cautious.
Hmm.
Um, so during the pandemic, there was an opportunity where we just wanted to protect what we were already invested in, and then realized in that moment that there was an awful lot that was coming down the pipe that had the potential to impact in a positive way, but not a lot of interest in really fessing that out, because we wanted to protect what we already had. And so then you extrapolate to 4+ years beyond pandemic, and I think we're still grappling with what we didn't pay attention to.
Hmm.
And also, what didn't get the attention that it needed, that may be floundering even more, or that may have actually been able to move forward, and now it's like trying to play catch up to be part of it. But I don't know, I think there's an overall caution when you look at what's happening with city budgets and federal budgets and cuts to just about everything, it's like, what's our role here? In a larger scale concept of how much responsibility do we have to try and make sure that there are these organizations that are doing really cool things are given the opportunity to succeed. So it's it's an interesting time, not an easy time, I don't think, for either funders or founders, because we're just conscious of the bottom line.
Yeah, and you're right. It's a difficult time, like you said, when you're playing catch up. It's difficult to look forward. But I mean, that's kind of your job, right? You need to anticipate. You need to look forward. How far forward do you look, and what do you see? What do you think the future holds for us?
Yeah, exactly. And we had during that time, Slow Angels closed its doors. There's work afoot to try and get it up and running again, but it does. The one thing that an angel organization will do is bring the deals to the investors. So there's a pipeline. There's opportunity for the founders to get in touch and to say, this is what I'm doing. Can I pitch to you? Without that mechanism, then it's harder for funders to understand what's going on in the ecosystem and figure out what it is that they may be interested in becoming part of. So there's infrastructure issues on that side. Now you've got organizations like Tech Alliance, which are doing an incredible job of bringing the funders or the founders to a point where they can actually be in a good position to pitch to whether they're angels or just individual funding bodies. Like that's the good news in this, because I think that we still have a gap, right? We've got our RHA and the Roundhouse Accelerator, the work that they're doing, Tech Alliance, the work that it's doing. There's organizations around in Southwestern Ontario doing similar things, but it's just how do we connect the dots?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So at the end of each podcast, Lynn, what I usually do is I ask a founder kind of a goofy question. If you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice when you were at the beginning of your founding opportunity, what would you tell yourself? So let's take this from your perspective. If you could travel back to a specific founder or really any founder and give them one piece of advice going forward, what would you give them, to help make that process easier as they approach the point where they might need investing?
So I'm thinking specifically of a female founder in this instance, to say, stand your ground, don't give up. The idea is sound, and you have the right and privilege to be able to present it and to own it.
That's a fantastic piece of advice, because all through the process, there is so much doubt, so much self-doubt in this, because you're taking this idea on faith that it's going to work. You're developing it on faith. And then you're approaching an investor on faith that they may have the same faith that you do. So I can't even imagine, how it feels when all of that faith finally pays off. That must feel good for you as an investor.
Oh my gosh, there are high moments for sure. There have been over the course of the past decade or so, and they stay with you for a very long time. Especially when you see that a founder is actually being able to live out the purpose that they set out in the beginning, and that you start to see the impact of that, either globally, locally, depending on what the service or the need is. You can't help but say, okay, cool, I was part of that, and really, really grateful for the opportunity to be part of that.
Well, Lynn, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I so appreciate you giving me your time to talk today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
A big thank you to Lynn Davis, president of Alegria 3 Inc., for speaking to me and sharing her thoughts and her philosophy on investing. Idea to Investment is made possible by Tech Alliance. Learn more about the resources available to startups and investors by visiting techalliance.ca. Thanks so much for listening.